Hello, and welcome to the Telescope Show. We are gazing into the depths of geek culture to discover ourselves and God. How are you doing? My name is Matthew Seipel Anderson, and with me is Katie Seipel Anderson. Katie, how are you?
I'm great.
Great. Well, daylight savings is definitely messing with us, but we are here recording and going to do our best to be on our A game. We are talking about Star Trek Picard Season 2 today, but before we get into Star Trek and all the juicy stuff of Picard Season 2, let's just jump right into some news. In the news, we've got some things coming up. Moon Knight hits the small screen March 30th. Morbius follows on April 1st, and Kenobi, which I'm very, very, very excited about, comes to our screens on May 25th. Katie, are you excited for Kenobi?
I am. I'm probably not quite as excited as you, but I am excited for Kenobi. It looked pretty good.
It looked so good. I'm really excited for Kenobi. I'm looking forward to seeing some of these characters who have existed as animated characters come into live action. I'm really excited. Katie is moderately excited. What is very exciting is that the Telescope Show will be at the Milwaukee Comic Con on April 9th. That's happening at the Wisconsin State Fair Park Exposition Center. In other words, it's happening at the place where the Wisconsin State Fair happens, and we'll be there. Or at least I'll be there.
Woohoo!
The show will be there. It's our first convention that we've done, and looking forward to hopefully, just meeting some of you, meeting some new people, meeting some new friends. So if you're listening in the Wisconsin area, come on out to the Milwaukee Comic Con. It's kind of funny that it's not actually in Milwaukee.
Right.
I don't know if it started in Milwaukee and moved to the fairgrounds.
And the fairgrounds, it's like the Wisconsin State Fairgrounds, right?
Yeah. Just go ahead and look up the Milwaukee Comic Con, and you will find that on the internet.
That magical place.
That magical place called the internet. Speaking of magical things on the internet, this story hit the news recently. Here is a headline. I literally copied and pasted this into the notes here. Global leaders around the world have condemned Russia's President Vladimir Putin over his decision to invade Ukraine, but Elon Musk is taking it one step further and challenging the Russian leader to a one-on-one fight. He writes, I hereby challenge Vladimir Putin to single combat. The stakes are Ukraine. So, pretty intense and pretty funny, actually.
It's like a ridiculous statement to make publicly.
Yeah, it is.
That's like something you'd be like to your buddies. Oh, I want to challenge him.
Yeah, Elon Musk
is combat.
He's kind of a larger-than-life character, and he's doing some cool things with, making sure that the Ukraine has internet during this time when Russia has tried to destroy their communications capabilities.
I don't think that Ukraine would really appreciate them being the stakes of a hand-to-hand or single combat between the two of them.
You don't think they'd accept Elon Musk as their champion?
I think if I were them, I would be very hesitant to. I'd want to do a little bit of research first. Like, why does Elon Musk think he would win?
Maybe they could have a rocket building contest instead of an actual fight.
See, that might be something that would be a better fit. I don't know. Maybe Elon Musk really is like fantastic at single combat.
We'll probably never know.
It feels like reality TV, like it's a setup of some kind or something.
Yeah.
Weird.
It is very weird.
You know what we can ask? What would Picard do?
What would Picard do in that situation? And before we could answer that question, we need to hear this sound.
Okay, so now I do have all the answers.
Great. So, talking about Star Trek Picard Season 2, Katie, do you have any general thoughts? What did you think? How does it compare to Season 1?
I do really like it so far a lot. The first episode was kind of a great setup episode. I was a little unnerved at first by what was kind of seemed to be a precursor of a romantic saga, but it really took a different turn really quick.
Episode 1 was like, get the band back together and remind us about all the characters, but...
Yeah, the last episode, I was like really on the edge of my seat the whole time. It's been a while since I was that like focused. And I think we actually got to watch the whole thing all the way through without getting interrupted last time.
It was nice.
That's kind of
yeah.
It's kind of a magical feat at this point in our life. So,
you know, the trailer that was released gave us a lot of information. You know, let us know that Q was going to be coming back. It let us know that there was going to be some kind of time travel thing. We know eventually we're going to end up even farther back in time, or I shouldn't say farther because they haven't technically jumped back in time yet. They realized that things had changed. They were in their present, but it was like a different present. But then they also realized that it wasn't an alternate reality. It was the same reality. Something had broken with time.
Or they think it's the same reality.
They think it is. Yeah, that was their...
Like, what if it's not?
That could be.
What if he just, like, got really good at doing alternate realities? Because it's also weird that they remember the other world, but no one else does.
Yeah.
They can't be the only characters that are the same. I shouldn't say the other world, the non-changed world.
Right.
It makes you wonder if they are in some sort of multiverse capacity if he just dropped him in the middle of some other verse.
Well, I guess we'll see how that all plays out. I mean, how they've said it's working right now is that something in the past has basically been changed by Q that has created like an alternate timeline or a changed future, and they're going to try to go back in time and rectify it.
Time.
Yeah, time. So it's another one of those mind-bending time travel kind of things.
So when Matt and I were talking about this a couple of days ago.
Yeah, a couple of days ago.
The days all slam together sometimes. A couple of days ago, he informed me in a very nerdy way that there are differences between the different time travel realities depending on your movie set, because there has to be
rules.
Standards? Oh, rules.
Yeah, there has to be
rules.
Kind of rules to help the audience. For them to stay with you, they have to understand the rules and what the characters are dealing with. Yeah, so in some movies like Back to the Future, you go back in time, you make a change, that change ripples through time, affects the future, and you go back to the future, as the name says, and things are different. You know, in the MCU, it was explained in the last Avengers film that time travel, when you go to the past is actually the future because you remember the previous past, so you're technically still moving forward. Even though you're in the past, you're actually in the future, and the old past still did happen, but you're in a different version of the past. The Star Trek version of time is a little bit more simplistic. Hopefully they explain it more as the show goes on. They drop some hints in the previous episode, but like you said, with Q, all things are kind of possible. So Q tweaks something in Picard's life that radically changed the trajectory of his life. Picard's life, in turn, affected the character of Starfleet and the outlook of the entire planet. The big question is, what did Q change? And I guess maybe the next question would be, can they change it back?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see that moment that changed the course of history.
Right.
I'm going to guess it's something like either bad that happened to him that he would want to undo, or some moment that you wouldn't expect. And it probably ties into his mom in some way, and the memories of, like, look up Picard.
Yeah, that line was repeated by the Borg Queen and said by his mom, and definitely featured heavily in those first couple episodes to tell us this is a big deal, this is going to be a moment.
The Borg Queen is such an interesting character. At the end, when they hooked her up and she kind of looked all smug, I'm like, what's going to happen?
Yeah, right now, to me, she is the biggest wild card, like you said. I don't know. Is she going to honor her promise? Is she going to turn on them at some point? Is she going to, like, what's going to happen with her?
Maybe she'll assimilate them all. The end.
They're looking for this moment in Picard's life that Q changed, or this detail that Q changed, that just changed everything after that. There's actually a word for moments like that in our lives. It's a watershed moment, right? A watershed, a watershed is literally a piece of land that divides a body of water. So like a river flowing hits a place and it splits into two rivers. That's a watershed. And we have watershed moments, things that really affect us. And we look back, usually in hindsight, you recognize those watershed moments. What are some watershed moments for you that you think of?
That's not a rhetorical question. You're actually asking me.
I'm actually asking.
Well, marrying you is kind of a big deal.
Yeah, getting married.
Which brought kids, which are also a pretty big deal.
Yeah, so like big moments are definitely, I would agree, like big watershed moments. And there's also just milestones you hit, like getting your driver's license.
And there can also kind of be bad watershed moments when you can't really control what's going on. You just control your own reaction to it or something.
True, like a financial catastrophe or a health issue or a death in your family or something like that.
Yeah, like my dad died when I was really young, and that was like a watershed moment for my whole family. My mom did an excellent job navigating that.
And some watershed moments, it can be a physical thing like we've been talking about. It can be an emotional moment that just your mindset changes, or you have an epiphany or an aha moment. It could also be a spiritual watershed moment where your outlook and your worldview, your heart changes, like having a relationship with God.
I kind of feel like throughout my Christian life or throughout my walk with God or relationship with God, there's multiple watershed moments where you kind of are tempted to go one way or the other. And you know that if you make a decision one way or the other, it's going to kind of change the way you view God or your relationship with him. Can you think of any spiritual watershed moments for you?
I was raised a Christian, but there was a moment in like junior high where I really made faith my own, and I decided I wanted to do this. I wanted to follow God. I wanted to follow Jesus. And then, like you said, there's these multiple moments along the way where, am I going to continue this or am I going to not? And I remember one that we were talking about earlier was reading this book called Show Me God. It's an old book. I'm sure it's out of print. And it just was a book about faith and science. And it was one of those moments where reading some things in there really affirmed that I could believe in God and have it be a reasonable faith. It just did something on the inside of me that really confirmed my faith. And I think that was definitely a huge watershed moment. We would love to hear some of your watershed moments. If you have anything that comes to mind, feel free to share it in the comments or shoot us an email. Let us know some moments where your life forever changed, or maybe a moment where faith became real to you. It'd be great to share with everyone else listening.
Or those little moments that you wouldn't expect to be watershed type moments, maybe in your life or in someone else's. You hear stories sometimes about, you feel like you need to go talk to someone, you go talk to them, and you find out years later that you reaching out to them like saved them in some capacity or changed the trajectory of their life in some way or something. I wonder how many of those we have that we don't know about.
I had a moment, a watershed moment. I was very discouraged in college. I wasn't doing very well academically at the time, living on my own, just figuring out life, I think. And I had this astronomy class, and I got invited to go stargazing. It's kind of funny because this is the telescope show. And I remember being with this professor and a small group of students and looking at this telescope and seeing the rings of Saturn. And it was just amazing. And just had a few encouraging words from my teacher. And it really lifted my spirits that night. And I think that was a moment where I decided to get some grit and not quit college. I had the thought like, maybe I should just quit. I'm not doing well this semester and it's expensive, and your mind goes. So that was a watershed moment brought by a telescope. Well, Picard is ending on a cliffhanger. How is it going to shake out? If you're listening, throw your theory in the comments. We love to hear fan theories. What's going to happen with Picard the next episode? Is he going to bring with all those Confederate troops to the past with him? Are they just going to kill those guys and go into the past? Or what's going to happen with the Borg Queen? There's so many different things at play, and we want to hear all your theories. Katie, do you have any theories before we close out the show?
I have the theory that we're going to definitely learn more about Picard's relationship with his mother and his family relationship. I think that's going to tie into his failure to commit to relationships in the future.
That's a good theory. I have a theory that the main sort of bad guy that's holding him at gunpoint, the guy who is Seven of Nine's husband in this version of reality, I have a theory that he's going to survive and be sort of reformed and become a good guy.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. They do kind of highlight him in some way.
Yeah, and Star Trek always...
he's going to end up being a really bad guy.
And that could be
He
too.
tries to sabotage them time and time again or something.
Maybe he'll escape and he'll be sort of like the Moriarty that's working against him. That'd be cool too.
Anything could happen at this point. They've really set it up well to go in a lot of different directions.
And the reason I think they're going to save that character, well, one, like you said, they've featured him enough to make me think, yeah, they're going to keep him around. And also, Star Trek has this history of having some character discover what it means to be human, whether it's Spock learning more about his human side through Kirk, or Data, an android wanting to be more human. So that's kind of a Star Trek thing. So I thought, well, maybe they'll do that with this guy. But
unless they do that with the Borg Queen.
Well, that could be too. That could be too.
Very interesting.
Maybe she'll never rejoin the Hive. Maybe she'll just become an individual, or maybe she'll become like the villain that fights them.
I think
it could go in so many directions.
I think yes to it all.
Yes to it all.
It could all happen. Well,
we shall see. We are going to sign off here, but thanks so much for listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and come on out to the Comic-Con at the Wisconsin State Fairgrounds. That's Milwaukee Comic-Con, April 9th. Love to see you.
But the question is really, are you going to dress up?
This is my first one, so I'm going to dress up in regular street clothes, not cosplay clothes. At this time. Come on out, see me, tell me I need to do cosplay at the next event that we go to, and I just might do it at some point.
Who would you dress up as?
The Borg Queen. All right, love y'all. Take care. God bless. Bye-bye.